I walked into his office and he has things like thunder. I said, "What?" He said, "No, I'm fucking not." He said, no. And I said, "I went round to a chum's for supper last night."
I know this story. It's brilliant.
He said, "I went round to a chum's." He said, "I got there." He said, "Well, the fucking Foxton's board outside the house. I was at school with him."
But you have to be tough. You have to say, no, mate, you can't come into work at 9:10 and think everything's going to be fine. You can't come into work and sit on your social media all day and think everything's fine. I'm going to fire you.
And then their culture deck, they said, "We're not a family."
I love that.
Right? We are a team. We are a pro sports team, not a Sunday league kickabout team.
I had a law of no brown shoes with dark suits in London. Pete, you wouldn't get in because you've got a beard.
Yeah.
There was no beards. I know I couldn't say that these days.
I'm quite fortunate that
I can't either.
It take me years to grow a beard.
It's probably exactly why I did it.
Welcome to Estate Agent Showdown with me, Matt Giggs, and this is a tale of the two Peters. So if I say Peter, you just jump in first, whichever one wants to go next. But I'm looking for a really honest, real, unfiltered conversation. So I thought, who better than speaking to yourself, Peter Rollins, and obviously Peter Knight. So today we're going to cover a few big subjects around the industry. Tell us what your real thoughts are, and we'll see who agrees. And you may disagree.
Oh, yes, we will.
Well, we
definitely
regularly do.
Yeah, exactly. It's much more fun.
That's what I like to hear. I'm looking for true insights. London, we just touched on before we started. Survival. I think survival is probably survival thrive. It seems it's the polarization of businesses under severe pressure for various different reasons. I'd like to dig into that and what your thoughts are. What we've learned, tiny bit of looking back, what we've lost and who wins next. But my first question, based on the fact that you're part of Leaders Inc., tell us a little bit about that, just to start with. And I've got a question I'd love you to answer, is that you've probably now watched thousands of agents and leaders over the decades. Why do some firms evolve and some disappear?
Well, Peter is Leaders Inc. He's not part of. He is living and breathing amongst us.
And you too, Peter.
I'm not known for doing great research. Sorry.
So
It's your
Leaders Inc. Is the new brand for what was Property Academy.
Yeah.
And the reason for the rebrand principally is that we are operating now in other sectors. So not only estate agency, but other sectors. And whilst the Property Academy went down great in estate agency, it doesn't really work in hotels, care homes, legal, and other sectors that we're going into. So that was the reason for the change. Pete is one of our amazing chairs. So in simple terms, we put together a group of 12 or so non-competing agents. We have a dozen groups, and they meet every other month. And we have a chair, Peter, Richard Palfram, and myself, a couple of others. And we help them to fulfill their potential. That's what we're about, Matt, is helping people to fulfill their potential. And we feel at the moment that there's a real problem, actually, with leadership generally in the world and in business specifically. And so our belief is that if we can inspire leaders to fulfill their potential, they in turn will lead their businesses to do greater things. And that's really the foundation of what we do.
I was in one yesterday, day before yesterday. Where was it? It was Amersham.
Oh,
lovely
that's
place.
Nice, Amersham.
I've never been there before. But it was really nice. And as Pete says, I got 10 business owners sitting around the table, all non-competing. And it's not just the chair. I mean, the chair obviously chairs it, but everyone shares ideas. And it really is a fascinating experience and a very wholesome experience, because these guys are mates by now. They've been in this group for a few years. So they get each other's businesses and they help each other. And as Pete says, it is unbelievable. I mean, yesterday, or day before yesterday, was as a case in point. One of the comments was, we all know what to do, but it takes a group like this to push us forward and actually get on with it.
Yeah, it's a bit more, I think it's accountability so it's accountability, Matt, and also having the confidence, the encouragement to sometimes make the decisions that you need to take.
Sometimes you need to voice it, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah. And so often, actually that they know the answers anyway.
Exactly.
It's a reassurance, and not only from the chair, but from the peer group. I'm actually chairing another group tomorrow, and they're all so different, each and every one of them. We've been going, crikey, 15 years in that respect. We've got over half our members have been members 5 years, 20% have been members for 10 years. It's not for everyone, I hasten to add, it absolutely is not. But for those who do want to develop themselves and develop their businesses, it works really well. So it's something I'm really proud of. And to be able to work with legends like this man is just a joy.
Oh, come on, I want you arguing.
We will. But I just want to start off with a couple of good points and then we'll go from there.
It's a good place to start. So leadership and 15 years, you say, it's kind of been going.
Yep.
Are the same challenges still appearing today as they were 15 years ago? Because the world seems to have moved on, in my opinion, in my feeling of running my own businesses for 14 years. It feels really different now than 14 years ago, but there are obviously certain things that do still apply. So what do you think?
Okay, so my answer to your question is yes, and no.
Yeah.
So I believe in a thing fundamentally, I call them principles, natural laws, things which are unarguable truths. And those, to me, remain constant. It's one of the constants of life. By the way, so is change, one of the constants of life. So you've got this juxtaposed between things that will always be there. So let me give you a specific estate agency example, because that's your audience, Matt, and that's what we're here to talk about, right? You could be so easily distracted by all the noise that's going around at the moment. Pick your war, for example, pick your political position, pick your economic thing, pick whatever you want to do. But principles remain the same. And unfortunately, as the mirror tells me, we all get older. That's a fact, right? And with age comes additional life changes, i.e. moves, right? People move life stages for that. And I think estate agents perhaps have fallen into the trap of focusing far too much on the financial metrics, the values, the numbers of transactions, all of which impact their business.
Yeah.
But when it comes to home movers, right, they're moving because they're getting married, or they're having kids, or unfortunately getting divorced, or they're moving for schools, or they're moving for work. That will carry on. Yeah. For a long, long, long time to come. Certainly, I'll be on the wrong side of the grass when that stops. But on the other hand, there is change. Of course there is. And the leader has a responsibility, I believe, to keep their radar seriously attuned to the changes that are going around and coming down the track. And that is part and parcel. So it's the balance, on the one hand, reminding yourself of principles, and on the other hand, keeping really aware of the change. Just
before we get your opinion on that, I just wanted something occurred to me when you was talking there, is that I feel that a lot of leaders are lost in the noise. Mm-hmm. So they sit in between two places. One, where they're supposed to be going, where they used to be going, and where they currently are. So I feel like that's a big challenge for leaders today, is actually setting their true north and actually being bloody clear on it. And actually, we're going in this direction. The decisions are going in this direction. That's it. That's my responsibility. But I think the noise can sometimes infect that, and it can be quite difficult to manage.
Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I quote him daily. He coached me. I'm extraordinarily lucky to have had that experience. And one of his great sayings was, he said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, right.
And we have this idea, so we have it, lots of people do, of control the controllables. So I'm not saying be completely ignorant to everything else that's going on around, but there's far too much attention, quite frankly, excuses, right, for poor performance, attributing it to it's the Renters' Rights Act, it's this, it's that, it's the other. I could give you a list of excuses, one a day actually I could probably send out, that you could, here's your excuse of the day if you want to. Actually, for the best performing agents, and Pete knows, there are some extraordinary businesses performing brilliantly well.
There are.
Those owners, those leaders are the ones who keep themselves focused on the main thing, right? And yes, they're cognizant of the stuff going on, but I don't say they ignore it, but they disregard it, because they know that they can make a difference within their communities and within their business.
Yeah, I love that.
Do you agree?
I agree with almost all of that.
That's a really good start.
I would say probably all of it, actually. Okay. But I think the nuance now, and you touched on it via your question, is what's changed today. And I think the people have changed today. The people we, as estate agents, and I'm not sure I could do it now, are employing. And I'm talking about younger people. I think they have an extraordinary different aspect and outlook on life and what makes successful people. And I mean, even at the meeting I had a couple of days ago, the stories that came out about, I'm afraid, younger people, 20 to 25, who basically don't find a need to do anything more than just as much as they have to. And I think finding those is increasingly difficult. They're still there, definitely.
Yeah, they're just less.
There's less of them. And I think they are, here's a statement, infected by modernity of school, university, and social media. And I think they seem entitled and think the world owes them a living. Obviously not everybody, but I think that cadre of people at the top are increasingly rare.
I think it's refreshing to hear somebody actually say that in our industry, because you're retired. No, but it's true. But it's so
I'm
bloody
past it.
No, but I feel like a lot of people in leadership running small independent businesses or even teams in corporate environments are finding that a real challenge, and they just can't say it.
I think that I'm saying it all the time at the moment, the world lacks management. The world, not just property, the world lacks management. And it's increasingly difficult to say no to people. You say, well, you can't say no because it's my right. And I think, in business it's something, and in the world it's something else. But in business, to Pete's point, you've got control. You can control it, but you have to be tough. You have to say, no, mate, you can't come into work at 9:10 and think everything's going to be fine. You can't come into work and sit on your social media all day and think everything's fine. I'm going to fire you.
Yeah. But that's the level of clarity that I think leadership stands for, good leadership. And I think
it's not comfortable.
It's not comfortable, but you could argue, and I'm saying we won't dive too deeply into it, but Foxtons, I think, probably lost its way for a period on certain behaviours that were expected and the clear leadership. It found its way, and I think great companies turn the wrong people off.
Sure.
And the right people on.
Absolutely. Birds of a feather.
Birds of a feather. And it's very difficult to manage all types of birds in an environment and create a substantial change and a clear direction and everyone moving towards it.
There has to be a clear.
I've tried it. I've messed up where I'm a performer. I like to perform. I like to get results. I like to do it the right way, do the right thing. But I think we have to work hard and learn. My deal with everybody that works with me is you must be open to learning. And the second part is actually fucking do what you've learned as well. Don't just learn and do nothing. Learn and do something. Now, over the years, I think where it fell down for me personally was just around the COVID era. And we softened so many things for everybody.
Yeah.
And it felt like I was running a business for somebody else.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it took me probably 4 or 5 years to actually remind myself of what my core values are, what my core beliefs are, and it's my privilege as a leader and a business owner to run it in the direction that I see fit.
You're not alone with that, Matt. There's a lot of people, and that's a point. 4 years is far too long to change stuff.
And you
get a good shit done, and if you don't get shit done, the business just goes.
I had one of our groups just yesterday actually, and I was running a workshop on what we call the culture deck. Other people call it that too, by the way. But we have a template effectively, albeit that it's just the headings that are the template. The detail has to be filled in individually by each firm. It can run to about 100 pages, right? And the key, I think, is to give people this culture deck ahead of even coming in for an interview and actually state with radical candor and complete clarity what it means to be in here. So in our own personal culture deck, for our business, right, we took a line from Netflix culture deck, and then their culture deck, they said, we're not a family.
I love that.
Right? We are a team. We are a pro sports team, not a Sunday league kickabout team. I did that last bit, by the way. Right? And that's the thing, because I will put up with dysfunctional family members in my family group, right? If I didn't, I wouldn't. No,
because you have to.
I do. No, I'm not sort of makes me kind of go, no. But I would. Their behaviours are going to be different, right? Yeah. I wouldn't tolerate some of those behaviours in the workplace.
Absolutely.
And by the way, the same is true, I'm sure, that they would say of me as well. So we run our business, and I encourage leaders in a state agency to run their businesses like a pro sports team. And you just have to look, whatever your sport of choice might be, or for that matter, anything outside that requires discipline. My former PA was a professional opera singer, right? The disciplines in that environment.
Incredible.
Any pro environment, people come in. And the key thing here is if they're made of the right stuff, right? You don't have to worry about all of this nonsense about, you can't say no and you can't say. You can actually give people direct feedback because at the same time, you're going to help them to fulfill their potential. And we run a thing called the Future Leaders Group, Matt, and it's mostly made up of younger people. There's a couple of people who are in their 40s, but one in their 50s. But for the most part, it's probably populated by people aged between, 20 and 35, that sort of age group. And I'm telling you now, actually, it lifts my spirits because yes, but as Pete says, it's the cream, right?
Yeah.
What you've got is an awful lot of dross, right? And one of the roles of the leader is to make it crystal clear that they will not allow the dross to come into their business. And there's enough people out there, actually, for you not to need to have to.
Yeah, but I think the clearer you are and the clearer your messaging.
Radical candor.
The radical candor. We are not putting up with this. Mm-hmm. This doesn't work for us or the people that are in the business, because the leader's job is to protect that environment, that culture.
And you said it earlier.
I love that.
If you let people exist in a team, the whole team thinks, what the fuck is going on here? Mm-hmm. Why are they putting up with this guy? Yeah. And anytime you get rid of them, they say, what took you so long?
Honestly, the place lifts.
Yeah.
Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, Beyond Entrepreneurship, which in my opinion is actually the best of his books, particularly for our sort of business sector, and various other things, Built to Last, all sorts. I was at a workshop with him in the States a number of years ago, and he had this really, I think, interesting idea, which was your next hire is a reflection to the whole of your business of what the new standard is around here.
Great.
And he said, basically, if you are filling a hole, right, if you are filling a gap and you take somebody substandard, what you're actually saying to the rest of the people in your organization is actually now substandard is okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I thought he made a brilliant point with that. When
it's powerful.
It is. And I think, and again, the thing is, it's all about, therefore, the selection process.
Yeah.
And, if you look at the way that most firms go about selecting people, it's based predominantly on their experience. Yeah. Well, we all know journeymen have been around, for years. And, dare I say it, in certain prop tech businesses, there are certain people that have probably got a dozen different business cards, all saying business development manager.
You do dare say it. Well done.
Well, I did say it.
Brilliant.
And also they're bad people, but they're clearly just not cut out for that role. No. That's the point. And so I think it's really getting really crystal clear about what are the characteristics that you need to have for certain roles. And then recruit for those. It's not easy though, Matt. It's bloody hard. Yeah. And then nurture and develop that talent and cause that team to feel that they're part of the best organisation they could possibly belong to. Yeah.
I think it's even more tricky now because in my day at Foxtons and Marsh & Parsons, I saw a lot of people. You alluded to it. I was known as Pistol Pete. And I sincerely believe that 95% of people I get rid of, I was doing them a huge favour.
I think
they were in the wrong job.
Yeah, this is going to be painful if you stay.
Absolutely. Yeah. But so I interviewed a lot of people, and when I brought them in, I was crystal clear. In fact, the first 2 hours of my day on a Monday morning was with the group of new starters, presenting what I expected of them and what was unacceptable behaviour and dress. So, Pete, you wouldn't get in because you've got a beard. Yeah. So there was no beards. I know I couldn't say that these days.
I'm quite fortunate that
I can't either.
It took me years to grow a beard.
It's probably exactly why I did it. No, it's not why I did it, because when you're growing a beard, you look scruffy. I had a law of no brown shoes with dark suits in London. It was just not the thing to do in those days. Your shirt had to be beautifully ironed. You had to come in looking $1 million. This was all on the board, and I had a picture of a sort of, what was his name, Kevin from Kevin and Thingy, looking Kevin and Perry, looking like an absolute stuff bag, and a beautiful guy in a suit, and whatever her name was from that, with a girl all beautifully dressed in a dark suit, looking fantastic. And it wouldn't be this. It would be exactly the same for the girls. I wouldn't say it, but I would get someone to say, you're not dressed to impress. Yeah. You need to try harder, which these days I don't think I could. I definitely couldn't do.
Well, we actually just 2 weeks ago, we've got a young man who works for us. He's an absolute little superstar, But he came, and he's, his first proper job, I suppose, second job actually. He came to us, and he came to this event, and he was wearing smart chinos and a t-shirt. And my wife, who now runs the business, Jo Knight, formerly of Moneypenny, took him to one side and said to him, "You will leave here now, and you'll go and put a proper shirt on, and then come back." Because we are there representing the brand. Yeah. And he turned up yesterday to the event that we did, super smartly dressed. Yeah. We don't dress suit and ties anymore, but he was appropriate for the platform, right? And that's what it's about. Being
Jo did him a huge favour.
She did, and I asked him privately. I said, "How did you feel?" He said, "No." He said, "It's great. I now know what to do. I know where I stand."
Absolutely right.
And that's all you want to hear, isn't it?
It is.
But it feels like everything across society is just completely dripping with the wrong kind of mindset and just fucking relax, it'll come, hope it'll be okay kind of mentality. And I think that's a big problem for people in society in general because, well, I suppose we could talk, I don't necessarily want to go into politics, but let's be honest, if you're paying more people to not contribute than looking after the people that do, you are finding yourself going down a particular road that's still very difficult to come back from. But it feels like we're doing that in business. I think you've got to expect, Eakins used to say to me, Anthony Eakins, you may have heard of him, he used to say to me, it's essential that when you hire people, you set clear expectations, get them agreed, and keep reminding them of how they're doing versus expectations. If you keep it clear, you'll take the culture to the next level. Sure. And that's exactly the
And the opposite
message.
is absolutely true.
Well, I forgot those standards for a period because I was being trapped by, and I'll tell you what happened, it was too easy. The market was there. Things were moving.
Absolutely
profits were high. Everything was okay. You start hiring for roles, not for vision.
It's a really good
point.
point.
And all of a sudden you kind of, and then trouble is, it takes a long time to get out of it.
Yeah. It does.
And
I don't want this edition of your podcast to be labelled the dinosaur edition in terms of our old.
Well, he's thinking that. He's laughing. He's laughing.
Our somewhat old-fashioned standards.
No, but it's not.
But the reality is it's adapting those things that work to a modern day environment.
Totally.
And I have absolutely embraced, where appropriate, things like flexible working hours. We have all of our meetings, internal meetings, now start. They used to start at 8 a.m, now start at 9:30. The reason for that is the greatest percentage of my team are female, and rightly or wrongly, it's mums more often than not that do the school drop-offs. And so, as a consequence of that, we just switched our meetings to 9:30 because why wouldn't you? Right, just as a little example of that. And we actually don't have holiday request forms. One of my interview questions to people is, can you count to 25? Because that's how many days holiday we give. If they can count to 25, then they can be managing their own holidays, right? And we never have. I mean, we have had that policy. Well, no, we've had that policy for years.
He's turning.
I'm joking.
But the key thing is, equally, I would think nothing of asking somebody, right, to if we've got something like, take EA Masters as an example, in the weeks building up to the actual show itself, we're all working round the clock on that, and it's called give and take, Matt, right? But the trouble is, it's give and take, right? And that's what's got to be the understanding here. It has to be mutually beneficial. And I think what's happened is that a lot of people like all the good stuff in life, but aren't prepared to put the hard graft in order to earn that. And it's an earned privilege as opposed to an automatic one.
I had a conversation with one of my partners, directors this morning, was talking exactly about this and his frustration that he sees the world differently to someone that he works with. And I
same age?
Probably about a 10-year gap. But the point, that I asked him, have you made it clear?
Yeah.
And that's where it all falls down. And I think this is the bit that I'm talking about. Now, just going back to politics, the one thing I think Trump done really well, there you go, let's just throw Trump into the mix, is he had a clear message. His message was clear. I've got various feelings I have about the guy, but that's the clarity that starts leadership. And I think what he did is he said, make America great again. That was very simple. Now, I'm not saying I would vote for him, but I'm saying how many leaders do talk about the vision consistently and the mission consistently and the standards consistently, or are they just trying to appease people around them on a daily basis?
They feel they have to be nice to everyone all the time. And that might be a problem because, you know, the world is far more litigious than it ever was. And you can get, I mean, the courts are months, if not years behind. And, you know, I even got it at M&P. Someone accuses you of something and it's total bullshit. But the only way to get rid of it is to give them 10 grand to go away. Because there's no way you want to go to court. And you know, it used to kill me. It's so unjust and so unreasonable, but that's the only way through. And these new employment laws that are coming in, which is employment rights from day one, I mean, how young people are going to get employed in businesses that are going to give them a go? Jesus, the people I've given a go to, and they've either gone like that or like that, and I get rid of them in 2 months because their attitude stinks. You can't do that anymore. And it's a real issue. And it's coming down the line in a big way.
The employer, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's a really interesting place that around the fact that all of a sudden you look at the rising costs across business in general, then the rising costs of minimum wage, then the employment rights, and then they wonder why there's not many people in employment.
Ian Preston Baker, one of our members, been with us for about 10 years, absolutely brilliant estate agent and top bloke in my opinion.
Really, I agree.
And he did a brilliant post recently on LinkedIn and other places where he stated about the gap between the minimum wage. So in 2015, minimum wage was, I'm going to approximate the figures, so but around about 15 grand. The average negotiator, I'm talking about average negotiator now, not somebody who's got, you know, super experience or central London or whatever. Average negotiator was earning at that point in time about 23, 24 grand, okay? Today, that average negotiator is earning about 26 grand. If the gap had been maintained, right, between what is minimum wage today, they should be on 45 grand.
Jeez.
Right? And then if you add into that the national insurance factor as well. So before we get into any employment rights, just the simple costs.
Or banking, anything.
Yeah. And I did an exercise again. This was just this week because we were going around the room as to what our sort of starting salaries were. And I started as a trainee negotiator at Samuel Rains and Son in Heel Green, South Manchester, right under the flight path.
Bloody hell.
No viewings before 11:30, ever. All the international flights would come in. Oh, we can do viewings now. And that was where I started. I started on £1,000 a year.
Wow.
And I remember
You are a lot older than me.
I know, well, yeah, you are. Or not as good a negotiator. I remember Michael Rains, the senior partner, who interviewed me, saying, you know, Peter, I find this rather objectionable to have to talk about money because in my day, he said, we used to have to pay the employer as an apprentice.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. He said, I can't make up my mind whether to give you 750 or 1,000. And it was a test. And so in the end, I got a grand out of him. I'd put it into chat yesterday and just said, well, what is the equivalent of 1979? Sorry, that's when it was. What's the equivalent, 1979, a grand a year today? It's about 5 grand, right? I mean, so I was working 2 jobs. I was a waiter at a Burnley Inn in the evenings, and I was an estate agent in the daytime. And I was so grateful to learn, have the opportunity, and have all the things. I was made a manager at 19.
Wow.
Right? Now, was I competent to be the manager of an estate agency office at 19? Absolutely not. I look back and cringe at some of the things that I did, right? But the thing is, I had that opportunity to join a firm, prove myself, graft at it.
Yeah.
Today, as
And
Pete
learn.
says, and learn. Today, I'm afraid, because of a combination of factors, if you can get minimum wage, or even, quite frankly, with benefits you alluded to before, where it's actually easier for you just to sit at home and do very little, right? And by the way, that isn't a working from home factor. I'm just talking about people not working from home, just being at home.
Yeah.
Much the same.
Why on earth would you graft like that? And this is the concern clearly with AI now and all of those entry level roles. My daughter's a lawyer. She's in commercial litigation, works for a top 4 law firm worldwide, that handles incredible deals. She was on maternity leave and she went back. She had 21 months maternity leave with my first grandson. She says, Dad, will you stop saying that? It's not your grandson, it's my son. I go, yeah, but he's my grandson. So with my first grandson, she had 21 months maternity leave. She went back to the office. First thing, there was nobody in it. This is a massive, massive law firm with 2,500 people in one site.
Yeah.
They've got sites all over the world. Almost literally nobody in there.
What was a Friday?
No.
Sorry,
It was a Friday?
No, it wasn't a Friday.
Oh my God.
No, it was a Friday. It wasn't. It was a midday. A midway. But she said to me, the thing is, Dad, my job is unrecognisable.
Oh, wow.
Because her job was, in this essence, was to analyse a case, and sometimes she would take the position of the opponent, as it were, and sometimes she'd be working on behalf of the client, and they'd have two teams working on it. And her role was to look at and find holes in the argument legally that could be deployed. I mean, she worked on for Warner Brothers on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case as an example,
Wow.
right? And loads of other stuff. So she's done some, but she said her job that she used to do has been completely replaced by their own AI.
Yeah, of course.
Because they now have every single legal document, every single case they've ever dealt with, every single thing. It's all in there. They put it into the AI, and within an hour or less, the answers come out. She is still verifying them. But she said to me, Dad, I wouldn't have got the opportunity, the entry point, that she, after university,
That's scary, isn't it?
It is. And I think, Matt, this is one of the big challenges for society, actually, is how we're going to enable younger people to gain that experience and to gain the opportunities that are there. And actually, a state agency can be one of the very best for them in that environment.
Agree.
But
Absolutely.
I'm afraid it's a combination of employers having to take an even bigger gamble now because of all the things Pete's just talked about, employment changes, the rest of it. But also those individuals taking a gamble insofar as, no, you're not entitled to this, that, and the other. You are going to have to work these hours. It is a 7 days a week business. So you're going to have to, if you want that opportunity to work in what I believe to be the best sector there is, I don't think there's a better job in the world. You need to put in the hours and put in the graft.
Your daughter, does she enjoy her job more now, or does she enjoy it more?
Well, she's on
before?
a second maternity now. Very quickly after, she's only went back for 4 months.
In the glimpse,
Oh my God! So they paid her for 3 years to be where for 4 months.
Yes and no. She wasn't. She was. Yeah.
I feel for that employer.
Yeah. Well,
Tough.
But would you, if she was to answer that question, what do you think she would say?
look, she loves her work, right?
But I mean, as in, like, isn't like the bit that I try and explain this to people, that the journey, or you want to call it the journey, the best bit is in the process.
Of course.
It's in the
Of course.
conversation.
The destination. Bob Geldof, his autobiography was titled "Is That It?" And the words he uttered once they turned the last light out at Wembley after Live Aid, and he just turned round, and I know this because my daughter's godfather is also godfather to one of his children, so indirectly. And Bob basically turned around and said, "Is that it?"
Yeah.
In other words, it was all done,
Yeah.
right? And the whole thing was the journey, the building it, make it all happen.
Trying to get the stars on the
Well,
stage.
and more,
Yeah.
the battle with Thatcher over VAT, for example, and various others. So he had all this stuff going on.
Mrs. Thatcher, I think.
Sorry, yes. I didn't realise there was another one. I just thought she could just go by her Thatcher. Of course, there's Thatcher's cider as well. But, no. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that he encapsulated that beautifully, this idea that actually, because you get to whatever pinnacle. This is one of the big problems, I think, with a lot of estate agency businesses, Matt, is that they hit what I call the wall. So the amount of businesses that have opened up 1, 2, or 3 offices, or in these days, 1, 2, or 3 locations if they've got a different business model, whatever, and then they stop and they hit the wall. And I think it's because they haven't looked beyond a certain point. And they've set themselves an ambition to say, I want to get to X number, whatever that number is. Yeah. And when they get there, they haven't thought about then what to go beyond. And the sort of people that we like to work with are the sort of people who, yes, will probably hit that same wall, but are able to then reset and recalibrate their ambition and reset and recalibrate their businesses. The same is true with careers. The amount of people who get stuck. They've been a manager for 10, 15, 20 years.
That's an alarm bell, isn't it?
Well, you could argue that they're content, and you could argue that that's fine, and so on and so on. That isn't me. It's definitely not him, and I suspect it's not you. It's that pursuit of wanting to do better.
But this is the bit I was coming to about the purpose of doing something, and that if people's purpose is being taken away, which it feels like it is, because people don't tend to want to do the journey. They just want the top of the mountain. They want to be at the top, taking a photo, sharing it on social media. They actually want to climb the mountain. And I think the climb is where your character's revealed, where you really start to understand who you are. The days that I'm guessing you've had sleepless nights in your careers.
Last night.
There you go. Was it because you were coming on here, Pete?
Of course. It was the excitement, the anticipation.
And when you all relaxed when you knew you were here with Peter.
I slept like a baby.
I can imagine. Yeah, I'm a pussycat. But the sleepless nights, the anguish, the challenges, the paying people, whatever it is that you go through, is the bit that takes you to a place that you've probably never been before. And you always come back out of it just a bit better than you were when you got into it, if that makes sense. And it's that stuff that I think people are missing out on today, because we're protecting too many people around that character building element of being in a estate agency. So for example, we touched on a call about the rigidity of you make your outbound calls, I think it was like 10 till 12 or something like that.
Time management, you mean?
Time management.
Yeah, the
That's
Holy
a
Grail,
must.
you mean?
That is the Holy Grail. That is unwaveringly non-negotiable. That is the thing that you've got to do here. And I don't believe it's a bad thing by any stretch. Having a conversation with someone is a really good thing in this business, because I think conversations have kind of lessened with voice notes, WhatsApps and everything else. But it's like, you probably like me, I don't know whether you remember this far back, Peter, but you know.
I'm quite good at it. I'm quite good. Depends how far back,
we used to
frankly.
do punting at Countrywide, punting sessions on an afternoon, Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon. It's called punting. Do you ever know?
What?
Not that sort of punting. Get on the phone. And it was 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock.
Whole team together.
Oh, everyone in.
Yeah.
And you do it Thursdays and Fridays. Newspaper was coming out, and you know the phones were coming.
Touting, in fact.
So you're on the phones basically,
Calling who?
Calling buyers, calling sellers, creating business.
Okay.
You never felt like doing it. But about 10, 15, 20 minutes in, and you've had a good call or two, you started getting in the groove. Sure. And all of a sudden, you start converting people into appointments, into viewings, activity. And I feel Rightmove interfered a little bit with an element of a estate agency that maybe is missing a little bit today, which is creating business. And I'm saying that because, not because of Rightmove's fault, but in the 1999, 2000, when that came out and it was launched countrywide, big driver in that, that's where I was at the time. A lot of estate agencies were like, well, if people are emailing in, they're a waste of time. That was the general kind of mindset of agents. But what it did between sort of 2003, 2004, when more people were using it, there was a lot more traffic on it, it started to replace some of what agents were supposed to do. And that's where we sort of meat and potatoes, but that's where I feel the meat and potatoes might be lost today. Am I wrong? In the conversations, agents actually going out there and making deals happen? Are they looking too much at other things to do it for them, whether it's social media videos, Rightmove, AI now, which is going to be taking over certain aspects of lead generation and call handling? I just feel like maybe too many people don't know what the real part. I feel like a little bit nostalgic, maybe.
I think you're right. And, you know, I remember...
I didn't get to a question, did I?
No, you didn't. But what you sort of did is has that robbed estate agents of their raison d'etre, old-fashioned estate agents who would, you know, there wasn't emails. So you got on the blower and you called people. And I used to say, when email came out, I said, I don't care if people like to receive emails. I want to speak to them. And I was told I couldn't do that because, you know, it's not what our customer wants. Well, frankly, bollocks to that. Our customer is the seller or the landlord. And what our seller or landlord wants is to identify the best people in the market to buy or let their property. Now, obviously, if people said, never call me again, we do that. But I think you have to push the envelope. Again, people are too nice.
Yeah. Matt, we have a model. We call it the MSC model.
Okay.
And it's the only 3 ways that you can generate business in a estate agency. The M stands for mine. And that's to mine your database, okay? The S stands for steal, and that's to steal your competitors' listings. And the C stands for create. That's to create new business. Now, of the three, my observation generally is that the majority of agents love the second one. It's almost like a double bubble. They get it and somebody else has lost it. And so they go out stealing. And so
Like a 6-pointer, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It can feel that way, absolutely. However, where the real value is, and you know this, and I'm sure many people on your show have said this, the mining, right, is where the real value is. And the database, of course, can be now incredibly enabled through the technologies that exist, but it still requires the mindset, the attitude to do it. The bit, though, that once you've mined everything, and once you've stolen whatever you can, and you want, by the way, because you don't want it all, right, because some of it's just not worth having. The bit that the very, very good agents used to do back in the day, which I think has gone, is the creation.
Yeah.
And it's where you see a property and you go, you know what, that Matt Giggs, I bet you his life's staged now. I bet you he'll be ready for a move about now. I'll give him a call. And you facilitate and make the business happen. And that, I feel, is largely absent today. And the very best agents, and I'm talking about people operating in businesses or areas, by the way. If I discount London, because London is, I think, a completely different. It is not like the rest of the UK.
Yeah.
But we've got members of ours operating all over the country, and Pete meets with these folk as well. You know, 1 million per office is quite common. 2 million isn't that rare. We've got single branch offices doing 4 and 5 million quid, right? And they are doing that levels of, they weren't always, by the way, but they're doing that level of business by that disciplined approach. So it's the discipline to say we are going to, however we choose to do it, whether it is email or phones or a combination or this, but we are going to, in a properly coordinated way, we are going to mine our database, right?
Yeah.
We are going to have a proper contact program with every single property that comes onto the marketplace, and we're going to create. We're going to ask ourselves the question, we've got an opportunity for a listing. Who do we think is going to buy that? And they don't even have to be registered with us. If you've got great data, you can go back and analyse people who are likely to be in the market again for that sort of property. That's what the best ones do. And the thing is, it's not a magic touch. It's not that they've been sprinkled in some sort of magic formula or something. They just are relentlessly pursuing that they do the ordinary things extraordinarily well. Yep. That's the key.
And consistently as well.
Yeah, exactly.
When I introduced the system to Foxtons, I took over as MD in 97 and 98. This idea came across my desk from a guy called Peter Tobin.
Yes.
Remember Peter? An amazing guy. And to incorporate it into Foxtons was unbelievably hard. I almost heard a revolution of people saying, well, you can't tell me what to do. Because we used to basically say, there's a desk, there's a phone, there's a car, and go and sell some houses.
On your own.
And frankly, they would do exactly what they wanted at any time of the day they want. They'd probably do 2 or 3 viewings. They'd make a cup of coffee. They'd get some keys ready. They would waste their time.
Yeah.
Most salespeople are shit at time management. But if you insist upon it, and to give you an example of what happened, from 98 to 2002, with 2 more offices, we increased the turnover from 10 million to 40 million.
And that was a flattish market.
It was absolutely, as I've said it is the holy grail.
Yeah.
And so few people followed that. Some did, most didn't, because they don't want to tell their people what to do.
But the good thing now, they don't. And I think going back to that article that I mentioned at the start, because it has made me think, it's linked very largely, in my opinion, to leadership.
Yeah.
Financial distress of a business is the leader's responsibility.
Absolutely.
A leader only has certain functions, quite frankly, right, which they have to do. They can do other things, but there are certain things that only the leader can do, right? And cash management is one of those things. Principally, they've got to be able to identify that. It's an absolute priority. But the other key thing they've got to do is to create the environment within which people can succeed.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember when I was Group MD of Jackson Property Services, and there'll be a lot of people watching this thinking, "Oh, you responsible." We used to be JH Jackson Estate Agents Limited, right? And we rebranded to Jackson Property Services. And at the point that we rebranded, we went 9 to 7, 7 days a week. And then when we opened our first office in central London, Pete's going to say Pimlico isn't central London, but when we opened up in Pimlico, which was our first office in central London, we went 9 to 9, 7 days a week. All right. And what we had alongside that, though, was this absolutely everything was documented. There was a system for everything. It was a process. And we used to employ a huge amount of working mums who weren't, and for that matter, also mums who were looking after kids. And they would come in at 5:30, typically when their partners came home from their work. They would come in and they would ring out, this is pre-internet, they would ring out properties between 5:30 and 7 and I used to give them, we used to give them like a stack, so 6 or 7 properties, and their goal was to get 3 viewings on each of those properties before they went home.
Brilliant.
And they got bonused on how many viewings that they did. And honestly, it was brilliant because they just set to it and they were singularly focused. They weren't distracted. They were just on it.
Yeah.
And I think that consistency is key.
Well, it's clear direction.
It is.
It
was quite tough. I mean, Foxtons was 9 till 9, and we got through a shitload of people.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, and that's why we changed it actually. 9 till 7 we went, 9 till 8 actually. Anyway, when I first started, it was 9 till 9, 7 days a week. Saturday or Sunday you worked. And it was miserable. And people, I mean, they were
the commonality between Foxtons and Jackson Property Services, our average fee across 25 branches, which is what we built it to before Halifax I was going to say destroyed it, before Halifax bought it and destroyed it. And isn't it ironic that their name is being dropped? Have you seen seen that? Yeah, Lloyd's is dropping the Halifax brand.
Right?
Yeah. Our situation, we were charging 2.75% average fee across 25 branches. And people said to me, how did you manage that? I said, well, because we were open when other agents were shut. So we had a really clear point of difference, and we were able to say to sellers, we were open 9 to 7, 7 days a week, 364 days a year. We closed on Christmas Day. And people said to me, come on, you never sold houses on Boxing Day. And I said, no, we didn't. You're absolutely right. But I tell you what we did do. We were able to list at a full fee because that statement of we're open when the others are shut validated our proposition that we are there to actually facilitate when others aren't. Now, that wouldn't work today because of the internet, because it's 24/7, 365.
But there are other ways.
Exactly that. And back to your point about purpose and back to your point about, I think it's about having a really clear understanding of what your competitive advantage is. And I'm afraid the consequence of the portals and other factors has caused basically it's homogenized. They all look the same, sound the same, act the same, charge the same. There's no obvious differentiation. No. The differentiator, therefore, is 2 things. 1, leadership. 2, the individual themselves and how they turn up and how they do it. That is your differentiating factor. And if you can get, the theory is easy, but the theory is really easy. But if you can really articulate to your team a reason to want to go. I remember my brother worked for Foxtons. He worked with, in the very early days when Pete was starting his career. John Hunt was running one branch in Notting Hill Gate. My brother went to work there, right? And I tell you what, I quoted this the other day. My brother he was living with my mum, and she lived at, she called it Holland Park. I think it was Shepherd's Bush, really, but she's a bit of a snob. So it was on Royal Crescent, so I'll let him be the judge as to where that was.
Definitely Holland Park.
Okay, fair enough.
She was living on Royal Crescent. That is proper posh.
Okay. Well, anyway, she was in a flat there, right? And my brother lived there with her. And what a masterstroke, an absolute masterstroke of leadership. One day he came home from work and she said, Jeremy, you got a letter from work, and it was a Foxtons branded envelope. And he was like, oh my gosh, opened the letter up, and it was a handwritten letter from John. And it said, dear Jeremy, you've been with us 6 months now. He said, I just want to say what an incredible start you've made with our firm. We're really impressed with how you've gone about things. You really have got a great career with us, and long may it continue. Love working with you. Keep it up. Thanks, John, right? And the masterstroke, the genius bit, was sending it home so that his mum saw him open it, or it could have been somebody else, his partner or her partner or whatever, right? And I just think that sort of thing, that sort of attention, I'm afraid, Can you automate it? You probably can, but you lose all the essence that goes with it, all the proper stuff.
It's like negotiating on a text, isn't it? You lose all the nuances.
And you were really good at this, Pete. I mean, you used to you said about your nickname, and you were a hard taskmaster. But by God, there are people who would walk through walls for you because you were there for them. And that's the thing. It's not just about being hard it's being hard on the ones that need it, and then absolutely supporting and protecting those who you wish to carry with you.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of that has gone, and everyone's just treated the same.
I'm not sorry, Peter.
I'm a very nice guy. I am a really nice guy.
Bit tight, but very nice.
As tight as a duck's house, which has helped me in many ways, but it frustrates those that know me. Generous in other ways. But
You are.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is I don't go out to be nasty to people. In fact, quite the
see it
opposite.
differently, yeah.
I going back to radical candor, I see it as a massive disservice to anybody, young people, old people, if you let them work in an environment that they obviously hate and they're obviously not very good at. And so I am not afraid. I've lived my whole life with radical candor. I only heard about it about a year ago. But my whole life has been it. And I think it's incredibly healthy and necessary. Now, radical candor doesn't include insulting people and being really nasty and mean and vicious to them. But it does mean hitting them straight between the eyes with what you think. And then they can argue back. No problem at all.
Yeah. But I think, in fact, if I'm honest, you prefer the exchange.
Yeah.
And I think, but it's funny, isn't it? Radical candor can be dressed up as too honest, too direct, and everything else. But actually, it's the bloody thing that everybody needs today. I would love to have somebody leading our country that had radical candor.
Yeah, they'll just want to get elected again. That's the problem.
Have you read the book, Matt? Have you read the book?
It's really
Head
good.
of staff of Street Group gave it to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she
I've
practices
heard of it.
She practices it within her environment.
Yeah.
And there's a great business
culture,
as well.
isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a great culture there.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And one of the key factors is the practice of radical candor. It would probably have been better as a sort of a 10-page pamphlet.
Well, there's a 20-minute clip on YouTube, which is what was sent to me.
Okay.
I haven't read the book, but it says it all, and it is the author of the book at a conference talking about it. I highly recommend it.
Me too.
I basically learned everything from that clip.
Yeah, right.
I love that. I love the sound of it. It's definitely aligned with who I am. I had my best years being more candid and direct. Yeah. And when I've changed that to suit the narrative of the day.
But people confuse directness with meanness and cruelty.
No, I think good intentions are felt though, aren't they?
But yeah, I mean...
Trouble is, as Dante said, the road to hell is paved with good intent.
Wow.
Right. So I'm afraid... I think it's more than the intentions. I think it's actually on the delivery. Yeah. And helping somebody. So Joe saying to this young lad who works for us, saying to him, get a proper shirt on, right? And no fluffing around it, no waiting for a good time. Get a proper shirt on, right? Has helped him. And equally, I'll tell you what was really lovely. Yesterday, he sent me a note. And he'd attended one of our meetings, and he just sent me. He said, "Just want to say how much I enjoyed, and thank you for the opportunity to be there."
Good lad.
Grateful.
Right. And this is a young man. This is a young man who's had to travel 4 hours to get there in the morning, 4 hours to get back home afterwards. Attended there all day long. Not a murmur about I had to get up at 4 o'clock to be there on time.
Love it.
Or anything else. He is grateful, and we are really grateful to have him. Yeah. He's a top lad.
You know he's got some career ahead of him.
Exactly. And my goal is to accelerate that appropriately and to give him the opportunity, which is what back to the point I made earlier. The leader's role is to create the environment and the opportunity for people to flourish.
Absolutely.
Right? That's, I think, the fundamental job of leadership.
Yeah. But if Joe had gone to him and said, "What the hell do you look like? Absolutely ridiculous. How dare you come to work looking like that?
Yeah.
Go home and get changed."
Yeah.
That's not radical candor. That is just utter meanness and cruelty.
I agree. You're so right.
So it is absolutely, it's the same, so let's face it, it's the same message.
Yeah.
One done with empathy and help, and the other done with aggressiveness and look at me, how important I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's that communication, isn't it? How you communicate the radical candor. But I love that. And I'm going to move just away from that slightly into an evolving popularity contest called self-employment in a state agency, and how you get to do everything what you want to do, pick the kids up, drop them off. You can do everything and still earn 100 grand a year without blinking in the eye. I feel really strongly about the fact that we've got to be really careful. I feel there's actually a real problem in the industry with this. I genuinely do. I think that people are being sold a dream. Now, it's up to them if they're daft enough to believe it. The people that I see succeeding in self-employed estate agency have the black book, they have the relationships, they have the local, their personal brand, if you want to call it that, in the area, and they are smashing it out of the park. They'd probably do it if they just done it for themselves, in my opinion, in the first place. But the people that are being told that it's going to solve all of their problems are coming unstuck. And I genuinely believe some of what we've talked about today is what people need. They need someone to say to them, how are you doing? How's it going? Have you been sticking to your calls? Have you made sure you've got in touch with those clients that you've... Because I feel most human beings, if they had the choice between doing something and not, will say, I can put it off.
Quite right.
A great piece of accountability is all about just making sure that the person's doing the thing that they said they're going to do consistently.
Well, I think isn't that how you run your business?
Yeah.
I mean, people need people like you.
People are going into this bloody thing with their eyes shut a little bit, and it's good that they are, because they'll come out of it and realise it wasn't right. There are people that are making a serious impact in there, but I feel it's also the point I was making is that there are a lot of people that are sitting in employed estate agents at the moment, probably a little bit like, oh, do I do that? Or do I go over there? And they're kind of, London now, they're kind of going with some of the established brands are kind of poking around on the brokerage model now.
I'll put my size 11s in and
please do.
And grab the helmet, and they're not self-employed. Let's just get one thing straight, all right? It's an absolute, the vast majority, that's, by the way, not to say that these models aren't very good, but don't call them something that they're not. They're not self-employed. They don't own the brand. They don't control so many aspects of the business model. They don't, and so on and so forth, right? But of course, we know one of the reasons why they're called self-employed is as a consequence of what happened within Purple Bricks originally and the whole employment thing. So you got that there. So I think there's two questions to ask, and there's one big solution that I would offer. Right? Cool. So the two questions anybody going into it should ask is, I'm not interested in what the top figure is, because you're all going to quote me 100, 150, 200 grand, whatever. Okay, what is the average per month earning per so-called self-employed? I like to think of it as a broker agent model, which I think is a more accurate description. Yeah. What is the average? The second question I would be asking is, and what is the average tenure? Because some of these organisations, I am told, reliably, have 60% churn per annum. 6 out of 10 people who start will not be employed or self-employed in that model at the end of the year. Now, that said, I do believe that the traditional model is appalling in terms of how poorly certain key people are paid. And I mentioned the manager who's got to the manager level and is stuck there at 40, 45, whatever grand, 50 grand a year, right? Now, the right sort of person in that area, in that situation, can absolutely flourish in this new model. Nikki Stevenson, who used to work with me, Nikki joined me as my PA. She became managing director of Property Academy. Today, she's the managing director of Fine and Country. And is it right for me to say I'm proud of her? I mean, I am. I'm so proud of her. I do feel that way. And she is such a great advertisement, I think. Nikki very candidly spoke at EA Masters a couple of years ago. And she said, if somebody wanted to be a Fine and Country associate on their associate model, she said, realistically, they really need to have about a year's money tucked away to be able to afford to do it, okay? And because otherwise they'll come in and they'll get into financial difficulties, which means that they'll then be making poor decisions for themselves as a consequence. What Ian Preston has done, though, has changed the rules. And by the way, it's not just Ian, it's others, but I'm very cognizant of Ian's arrangement. So he's introduced what he calls flexible fees, where people are paying up front. Yeah. He's paying his associate brokers, whatever you want to call them, he's paying them, I understand, about 60% of the fee. Yeah. So if you get 100% of the fee up front and you get 60% of it because it's paid up front in that month's pay packet, all of a sudden, right, you're in a situation where you are earning from the get-go.
Yeah.
Now, Ian, with Preston Baker brand, Ian has had the same people, the same brand, same location, same properties, same market factors, etc., etc. In other words, the only thing that has changed is the way in which these people personally earn money and the way in which the client is given the option to, rather than go no sell, no fee, to pay some or all of it up front.
Yeah.
And those two things together, Matt, have transformed the opportunities for the right people. And Ian will tell you, there are people who were on the old model earning 40, 45, who are genuinely earning 80, 85 now.
Yeah.
Same people, same town, same brand, same proposition. The only thing that's changed are those two dynamics. And so it can work.
I remember when he was launching this, because I went and done a full day training his agents about 2.5 years ago. And he was going through that transition. And I remember he took me out for a nice steak the night before, and I had a catch up with him because he was at Countrywide back in the day. I mean, he's a really bright guy. There's no doubt about it. It's like you could sit there and just think, Jesus Christ, you know, he thinks things through in great detail. But I thought, wow, it's a great idea.
So the self-employed, the so-called self-employed, well, I like to think of it broker agent, right? I think there's absolutely a place for it. It works in the States, it works in Australia, it works in New Zealand, it works in the UAE. There's lots, South Africa. There's lots of environments where it works. The thing is, though, let's not kid ourselves that it's the same as actually going out and starting gigs and co with your name above the door, you know, and actually start or buying, you know, that knackered old brand that was Marsh and Parsons and buying that business and transforming it into what it became. Right? Yeah, that's proper ownership and you know, with leadership. I'm afraid the broker agent model is not that. But that's not to say it doesn't have its place.
No, I agree. It definitely has its place. Just in London, though, obviously people are starting to look.
Yeah, I get what you mean about the broker model. I mean, it's virtually self-employed. Let's face it. In London model, I don't quite work out the Stratton Parker model.
Yeah, that's it.
And the Knight Frank model. At Stratton Parker, I read they're paying them a 60 grand basic. So how that is a broker model, I have no idea. It seems to me that the business is paying someone a basic and then giving them shitloads more cash. In terms of commission, 50%, 60%, whatever it is. I think anything over 50% is you'll struggle to give away. I remember 20 years ago when I came back from Australia, speaking at a conference there, I came back thinking, wow, this is a great system. I'm going to incorporate it into the UK and change the market. I worked out how the brokers made money. I could not make the principal make money, especially at 60, 70%. 50%, I think, about right. But
that's because we charge too little.
That's my next problem.
There's the problem.
It is.
Right? I mean, you could give 80% if you charged enough. If the 100% is big enough to give away 80.
Absolutely right.
But I talk about the 2.75 back in my day.
Yep.
Right? It's now, we know this through our home moving trends survey that we do every year. It's below 1%.
Oh, yeah. Jesus. Right? I mean, we don't deserve to be successful.
It's ridiculous. Oh. And so you've got this crazy scenario. And the thing is, there is no other than personal accident lawyers.
Yeah.
I don't think there are is another group in this country or anywhere in the world who do no sell, no fee. Yeah. Right?
It's ridiculous.
Absolutely, it's madness.
I think the flexi fees is the future. I think flexi fees.
But it should be a higher fee. Should be 2% minimum.
Yeah, and up front, or a good chunk up front.
Percentage up front. Yeah.
And by the way,
the public doesn't respect estate agents because of that very principle of discounting their value. And not charging anything throughout the process.
It's a downward spiral.
So then they just go, well, I'm not going to move.
You charge shit fees, you get shit staff because you don't pay them enough.
Yeah.
It's a downward vicious spiral.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we're not at the beginning of that downward spiral, right? The reality is we've been on that spiral
for a long time.
We've been doing home moving trends survey for 15, something more than that, 7, whatever it is, enough time. And we've seen every single year the average, because we asked the people who are moving home, what do you pay?
Did it precede Purple Bricks?
Yes.
Did it? Because I blame, inverted commas, Purple Bricks. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think that what Purple Bricks did is I think that a number of things they did, but one of the things they did was to bring the issue of fees to the forefront of people's minds. But I think the majority of this is in the minds of the agents.
Yeah.
I'll always remember a competitor of yours back in the Foxtons days, Ivor Dickinson of Douglas and Gordon, right? And I had an advertising agency back in those days, and we used to do Douglas and Gordon's advertising. And Ivor, to be fair, was brilliant from the perspective of allowing us to be more creative than the average agent would allow you to be. And so we did all sorts of
It was very
stuff.
memorable. It was really memorable stuff.
We like to
Stood
think
out
so.
from the crowd.
There was some good stuff. I'm proud of the work that we did.
I agree.
By the way, other agencies
I didn't
also.
know you did it,
We
actually.
didn't do all of it, but we did enough of it to be able to claim to that. And I walked into his office one day, and when posh people swear, I think it's really funny. and Ivor was Harrow educated. He was in the Guards. I mean, he's proper posh,
He was.
And I walked into his office, and he had a face like thunder. And I said, "You're right." He said, "No, I'm fucking not." He said,
no.
and I said, "Oh, what's the matter?" He said, "You wouldn't fucking believe it." He said, "I'll moderate the language." He said, "I went round to a chum's for supper last night."
I know this story. It's brilliant.
He said, "I went round to a chum's." He said, "I got there." He said, "There's a fucking Foxtons board outside the house. I was at school with him." I said to him, "Why? What on earth caused you?" He said, I came home, I got this leaflet. He said,
I love
it
it.
offered me a free valuation.
I love it.
Oh my God.
I love it. I've heard that before from you, I think.
And
It's brilliant.
here's the thing, right? Here's the thing about that, right? Is that we've got this ridiculous idea that people who do one activity every 10, 15 years or so are expert in it. They're not.
No.
So we're the ones that have this negativity around fees.
That's
And there'll be
so
people
true.
watching us saying, "You're not in my area. You don't know what you're talking about. It's in the past." I tell you now, absolutely. I'm working with estate agents the length and breadth of the country, literally Scotland to Plymouth, Swansea right across to Norfolk, and everywhere in between. In places where the average selling price is below 200 grand, places where the average selling price is over 2 million. And right across the board, without exception, the best agents are charging 1.5, 1.7, 1.8. Foxtons, I believe, still it's 2.2 still?
2.25 average.
Yeah, average.
And
Right?
that includes Croydon and Crystal Palace and
Beautiful
Herne
areas.
Hill and all those sort of
beautiful places.
lovely places.
Penge was my
Penge,
first.
beautiful.
I lived in
Peckham,
Penge. My first place I lived in
beautiful.
London was Penge. Penge sur le mer, we call it.
Jesus.
Or sorry, anyway, the thing is, right? It's in the agents' bloody heads, right? And what Purple Bricks did was they caused agents to feel that actually there was a new benchmark, a new marker in the sand that they had to deal with. They didn't, and there's always somebody that's the cheapest. There's the worst place in the world to be. I think the worst business model in the world is to be the second cheapest.
Oh my God, imagine that.
Right. If you're the cheapest, at least you've got a point of differentiation, right? You could, and there are businesses out there, Woolworths, for example, for years, Primark, perhaps today. Maybe I'm being pejorative, and the people out there go, but there are brands that operate brilliantly well. You don't want to be second cheapest, right? And actually, if you truly develop a proposition that is and get the results, you can absolutely charge. And we've seen it over and over and over again with tens of thousands of transactions a year. Not just one little village with one thing. I'm talking about across the piece. Yeah,
absolutely.
But if you don't, I think if you don't stand, going back to our first point, if you put up with bad behaviour, if you put up with poor people, if you put up with people being rude to people on the phone, dismissive, don't care, you don't deserve any more than the lowest agent out there.
I had this quote.
So you have to step up.
I had this quote, if you don't stand for anything, you fall for everything, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it is leadership that we're talking about a lot today. A lot of this is coming back to, and there's businesses going under because they haven't had the courage and conviction to carry things through.
You're right, but that's been like it forever.
Yeah. It seems pretty tough for people out there at the moment.
I think, here we go. I think, businesses should go under. I think you cannot
can't expect
hold up zombie businesses just because.
We did in COVID,
and look what happened.
And everybody else paid.
The reality is the problem, Matt, is that the mediocre can survive. So if you've got a one-office business, you own that office yourself. You've bought it over the years, right? And it's you and your partner, and maybe a part-timer friend or whatever, and that's it. It's not a business I would aspire to, but you can just about make a living out of it of some sort. And there's an awful lot if you chat to Chris Watkin about the stats in terms of the numbers of sales or lettings per office, the average is just desperately low. But I can't imagine anybody listening to this, watching this, anybody that you engage with, Pete and I engage with, are remotely interested in that. Right? No. What we know is the other end of side of the coin, and the other side of the coin is absolutely we can make extraordinary lifestyles and valuable businesses out of this. And just a bit of a plug, if I may.
Go for it.
EA Masters this year, we've actually gone out around the world. So we've actually managed to recruit contributors from Ireland, across the UK. In fact, Guy Gittins is one from the CEO of Foxtons today. The UAE, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, United States, and we're talking about contributors at the highest level, leaders in every one of their fields. And we're getting all of their brilliant ideas about the future and what they're going to do. The one thing, though, that is, well, there are a number of things, but one thing that is absolutely common throughout all of them is they exercise extraordinary leadership. And there's an old saying in the military, soldiers watch what their generals do. And it's about how the leaders turn up every day, how the leaders are disciplined. I never had this when I was running a...
Quite right.
Quite right, too. That would not have happened. That absolutely would not have happened.
I'd send you home.
No, in fact, he's looking at that. I'm feeling that. I ought to go and shave him.
Did you know he was going to mention that? Did you know he was going to mention that?
No, I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me.
I will not disappoint you, Pete.
But the soldiers watch what their generals do.
I love that quote, that's amazing.
So the way you turn up as a leader and what you tolerate as a leader and what you're prepared to put up with as a leader, but equally on the flip side, the way that you encourage, the way that you enable people, the way that you give them great feedback. John Harvey Jones, the famous self-styled troubleshooter, the former CEO of ICI, the first British TV business guru, he had this idea of management by walking about and catching people doing things right. Okay, and that I think is again a sign of leadership, as opposed to pulling people up for their mistakes. Actively finding them doing things that are right. And do you know what? Then they repeat it. Think about kids. You've got kids, right? You give your kid a positive... they've just played a musical instrument and it's like a cat drowning. It is just horrendous to listen to. But what do you say to them? Good effort there. We could practice more. But you encourage, right? And you do this. It's very similar, I think, leadership to parenting in some ways.
It is very similar.
And tough love is a part of parenting that is an absolute essential, isn't it?
Saying no.
Yes,
exactly. But what Guy does now, the previous incumbent of the CEO at Foxtons hadn't been ever in 7 years to some of the offices. Hadn't even set foot in them. Guy on a Friday now gets in a car and drives to as many offices as he possibly can, goes in, shows his face, finds something right the whole time. And just, it is literally spreading the love. And he is the chief exec of it's 1,400 people at 61 offices, more than that now. We've got Watford and
I'd love to interview Guy at some point.
He's an amazing man.
But also do it on the stage at the EA Masters. But
well, you can certainly come and listen to the EA Masters.
It's an unpaid role, you know that.
I was going to get... we're going to have to close up in a moment.
What?
This is unbelievable because it feels like we're really...
How long have we been going? Oh, geez, we've been going a long time.
AI I was going to get onto, but I think enough gets talked about with AI. I honestly think this has been a really good conversation today. Now, one of the things I've realised over the years is that in our industry, the tough people, the people that are really going to go on to that next level are the ones that are constantly learning, constantly evolving. And I think you've shared some... I've listened to a few of these quotes and I'm just writing them down in my mind at the moment. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But just 1 minute on the future. The next, I'm going to say just 5 years, because the last 5 years seems to have shifted like so fast. So much seems to have happened. Where do you see the winners and the losers in the next 5 years? give me a minute each on what you think.
Pete, you go first. You bastard. Well, I mean, I wouldn't overcomplicate it. I really wouldn't.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Leonardo da Vinci quote, which is simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And so many people try and add all sorts of bullshit into it. You have to do, as we said, you have to do the right things right. You can add on the AI, and absolutely you should. You should really get interested in AI. You should play with Claude. You should play with ChatGPT. See what it can do for your outbound. You know, I still get letters and emails with spelling mistakes in it. They're just, in business, it's an outrageous affront to be. You know, I am very focused on detail. And for someone to send me something like that, it tells me they don't give a shit. So that's the first thing. So it's simplicity and doing the right things well. And then you'll build.
What he said. I've been running an exercise.
45 seconds.
Creating a model, right, which I've called intelligent agency, and it's driving our sort of thought processes. And fundamentally, I believe that just about the vast majority of roles in a state agency can be automated and AI can replace. But there are one or two which absolutely cannot and won't in my lifetime. If they do change, I'll be the wrong side of the grass, right? And those two aspects, one, leadership, and secondly, what is called, I hate it, the term valuation, the marketing appraisal, whatever you want to call it, right? And that is where the business is won or lost. So if I was going to do one thing for the future, I would be building up and developing incredible talent at that key moment. And I'm talking about people who in today's money should be earning 100, 150, 200 grand a year to go out and win the business, right? And then automate and cut the costs in order to be able to afford these people, cut the costs of all of the so-called support stuff and admin stuff and so on to automate it. But focus your time, money and effort into developing like special forces, elite forces to go out and to win the business and to do that. That's what I would focus my time on.
Great point.
Yeah, I like that. Both brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Properly having a good conversation today. And thank you for watching, listening. Keep following us, like, subscribe, all of that kind of stuff. Follow these guys. Quick shout out to the EA Masters. When is it?
November the 3rd.
November the 3rd.
Thank
Look
you
out for that. And I just wanted to mention the AI agent.
Oh, yes. Nesty.
Nesty. Look out for Nesty. Really
going great
cool.
guns.
I spoke to the guys last week, actually. And again, we'll do a little plug on those guys very, very soon and probably get them on the podcast. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one.